My name is Claire Dawson, and I'm 33 years old. On paper, my life looked solid. Not glamorous, not the kind of thing that belongs in an inspirational Instagram reel, but quietly impressive if you knew what you were looking at. I'm a project manager for a mid-sized tech company. I live in a two-bedroom condo that I bought 6 years ago, when interest rates were still semi-humane. My name is on the deed, my credit score paid for the keys, and every piece of furniture in there has a story about some late night with a tape measure and a budget spreadsheet. I had a good job, a decent emergency fund, and a condo with a view that looks better at night when the city lights blur out the rough edges. And until very recently, I had a fiancé. His name is Noah Blake, 31. The kind of guy who looks like he was designed for phone cameras. Strong jaw, easy smile, just messy enough hair that always fell the right way in photos. He posted couples selfies with captions like, "Lucky I get to do life with this one." And people commented things like couple goals and when is the wedding? The wedding, as it happened, was supposed to be in 3 months. Noah moved into my condo 2 years ago. I remember handing him a key and thinking, this is it. This is the grown-up life everyone talks about. Matching toothbrushes, shared grocery lists, debates over which Netflix show to start and never finish. We split utilities, argued occasionally about whose turn it was to handle trash day, and fell asleep most nights with his arm draped over my waist like I was something precious. From the outside, it looked like I'd made it. From the inside, it felt safe, mostly. Then my grandfather died. He was 88, stubborn, funny, and the only person who ever understood why I loved spreadsheets. When he got sick, we all knew it was coming, but knowing doesn't make seeing the voicemail from the hospital any easier. He left me money, a lot of money. After the funeral and the lawyers and all the paperwork I couldn't bring myself to read, his estate settled. By the time taxes and probate did their slow, grinding work, I had about $500,000 sitting in a new investment account in my name. $500,000. The number didn't feel real. It felt like something that belonged to other people. People who knew the language of portfolios and asset allocation and diversifying your holdings. My financial advisor, Mark, walked me through it on a video call. "We'll move this into a mix of index funds and safer instruments," he said. "We'll set up some protections, especially with your upcoming marriage." "Protections?" I asked. "Trusts," he said. "It's standard. Doesn't mean you don't trust your partner. It just means you respect the work your grandfather did to build this. We'll talk structure before the wedding." I nodded along, taking notes I didn't fully understand, and felt this strange duality. Grief pressing on my chest and this thin, shimmering thread of security, weaving itself quietly through the rest of my life. That night I told Noah. We were on the couch, Shep, my neighbor's old retired canine I half adopted for evening walks, snoring on the rug. The TV was on mute, flickering light across the room. I told Noah about the final numbers, how it was official now. He wrapped his arms around me and kissed my forehead. "I'm so sorry about your grandpa," he said. "But, wow, Claire, $500,000. He really believed in you." "He believed in compound interest," I said, trying to joke, voice snagging anyway. Noah laughed, a little too brightly. "Okay, yeah, but this changes things, right? I mean, for us, the house we can buy, the wedding, the honeymoon. We could do Italy for a month, or Bali, or both." His eyes were bright, almost feverish. I told myself it was just excitement, hope, us dreaming together. I should have listened to the way my stomach tightened. 3 nights later, the bomb dropped. It was a Wednesday. I remember because I'd just finished updating a nightmare of a project timeline and my brain felt like warm oatmeal. I came home thinking about leftovers and pajamas. Instead, I walked in to find Noah sitting on the couch, TV off, hands clenched together between his knees. His eyes were red. He'd been crying. My first thought was that someone had died. "Claire," he said, standing up and then sitting back down like he couldn't decide what to do with his body. "Hey, can you sit, please?" The world narrowed. "What's wrong? Is it your mom, your sister?" He shook his head, swallowing hard. "No, it's me. I have to tell you something, and I'm so ashamed. I don't even know how to say it." My heart pounded. I sat slowly on the opposite cushion. "Okay, whatever it is, just tell me. We're a team, remember?" He nodded desperately, like he wanted to believe that. "I have debt," he blurted out. "A lot of debt. From before I met you. It's been haunting me." I exhaled. Debt. Not cancer. Not a car accident. Debt. My brain shifted gears. Okay, I said carefully. Debt like credit cards? Student loans? How much are we talking? He squeezed his eyes shut. It's a private loan, a big one, 120,000. I stared at him. I thought he'd said the wrong number. $120,000? He nodded, jaw trembling. I know. I know how it sounds. I made some horrible investment choices, and I tried to help a friend who then bailed on me and left me holding the bag. It's not with a bank. It's a private lender. And the interest, Claire, it's crushing me. I've been just managing payments, trying not to drown. I searched my memory. We'd been together 4 years. 4. I mentally ran through all the nights we'd talked about budgeting, about trips we couldn't quite afford yet, about his car payment, his gym membership. All the times I asked, "Do you have any debt I should know about?" And he said, "Just normal stuff, nothing crazy." Why am I only hearing about this now? I asked, my voice eerily calm. Noah looked at me like a trapped animal. Because I couldn't breathe, okay? I was so ashamed. I didn't want you to see me as irresponsible. I kept telling myself I'd fix it before we got married, but then your grandpa, the inheritance. He looked up at me, eyes flooded with tears. It felt like a sign, he whispered. Like the universe was giving us a clean slate, not just me, a clean slate for us. I can't start our marriage with this hanging over us. I can't bring this shame into our new life. It would ruin us. Us, the word echoed. And you want, I prompted. He swallowed. If we used part of your inheritance to pay it off, just the loan, we'd be free. We could start fresh. No secrets, no debt, just us and our future. Something cold unfurled in my chest. I loved him, or I thought I did. I'd pictured walking down an aisle toward this man, sharing bank accounts and holidays and middle-of-the-night worries about our future kids. The thought of him drowning in secret debt made my heart twist. At the same time, another voice, quieter, firmer, murmured, "He hid this from you for 4 years." I forced myself to meet his eyes. "Of course," I said slowly. "We're a team. If we decide to pay it, we do it the smart way, not just wiring money blindly to some private lender." Relief crashed over his face. He grabbed my hands. "You mean it?" "Yes," I said, even as my stomach churned. "But we're going to do it right." I talked to Mark about estate planning. He's rolling the inheritance into a trust before the wedding. He's going to need the loan paperwork, the agreement, the payoff statement, contact info for the lender, so it can all be handled properly and closed out. The relief flickered. "Paperwork?" Noah repeated. "It's not really like that. It's not a bank. It's a private lender. It's messy, embarrassing. Can't you just give me the money and I'll pay it? I don't want your advisor to see how stupid I've been." There it was, the first real crack. I squeezed his hands a little too tightly. "Noah, he's a professional. This is literally his job." He also recommended a forensic accountant to help us get a full picture of our finances before we merge anything legally. It's not about shame, it's about protection, for both of us. His face went pale. "A forensic accountant? Isn't that a little extreme?" "It's smart planning," I said evenly, "especially with this much money involved. You said you wanted a clean slate. This is how we get it." I smiled then. The smile I use in meetings when someone is trying to derail a project and I'm too polite to call them out directly. He hesitated, then nodded, because what else could he do without looking suspicious? "Right. Yeah, smart. Okay. Whatever you think is best." An hour after he went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table with my laptop glowing in the dark and emailed Mark. The next morning, I hired the forensic accountant, a man named Mr. Karras, who specialized in complex financial disputes. I didn't tell him I suspected anything. I just said I was getting married. There was a $120,000 private loan I was considering paying off with inheritance funds, and I wanted an independent audit of my fiancé's mystery debt before I did anything irreversible. He didn't blink. "Send me any documents he has," he said. "I'll take it from there." Noah dragged his feet about sending anything over. I watched him lose color every time I casually asked, "Hey, did you send Karras the loan details yet?" He'd mumble something about tracking them down, about emailing tonight for sure. 2 days later, I got a call. "Ms. Dawson?" The voice on the other end was clipped, precise. "This is Karras. I have my initial report. I think you should come into my office." My throat went dry. "Is it bad?" I asked. There was a slight pause. "I'd prefer to discuss it in person," he said. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and drove to his office with my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. The city blurred past my windows. Every red light felt like a verdict. By the time I pulled into the underground parking garage, the cold feeling in my stomach had spread all the way to my lungs. Whatever he'd found, I knew one thing. My life was about to split cleanly into before and after. Karis's office sat on the 22nd floor of one of those new glass towers that look like they're judging you. The reception area was all cold steel and white walls, the kind of place where even the potted plants looked expensive and slightly hostile. A woman at the front desk took my name and offered me water I was too nauseous to drink. I sat in one of the minimalist chairs and tried not to imagine worst-case scenarios. When he finally opened his door and said, "Ms. Dawson," my legs felt like they were moving through water. His office was all glass and clean lines, a panoramic view of the city behind him. He didn't do small talk. As soon as I sat down, he slid a manila folder across the desk toward me. "You asked me to look into a $120,000 debt held by your fiancé," he said. "I found it." The file felt heavier than paper had any right to feel. My fingers shook as I opened it. "It's a hard money loan," he continued, "taken out 7 months ago from a private equity group. The terms are aggressive, 12% interest, with the full principal due as a balloon payment." My eyes moved over the printed words, not really reading, just skimming for anchors. "A balloon payment?" I forced out. "When?" "In 4 months," he said. 4 months. Our wedding was in 3. "So the payment is due," my voice trailed off. "Approximately 1 month after your planned wedding date," he finished for me. I heard my heartbeat in my ears. I looked down again, forcing my eyes to focus on the numbers, the dates, the signatures. None of them looked real, even though one of them clearly belonged to Noah. "What was the loan for?" I asked. He told me it was bad investments, helping a friend. What did he actually use it for? "That," Karis said, "is the interesting part." He pulled out another document and laid it on top of the first. "The funds did not go into his personal account," he said. "The $120,000 was wired directly from the lender into an escrow account and used as the 20% down payment on a $600,000 new build condo in the waterfront development." Condo, waterfront. The words felt like they belonged in someone else's life. He slid yet another paper over, this one with bold letters at the top. I also ran a title search on the property. 2 names sat in black and white at the bottom of the page. Owner of record, Noah Blake, an unmarried man, 50% interest. Owner of record, Jasmine Cole, an unmarried woman, 50% interest. My brain tried to reject what I was seeing. Jasmine. My vision tunneled. "Jasmine," I repeated, my voice thin. "Who is Jasmine?" Karis tapped the page. "According to the public record, she is co-owner of the property and co-obligor on the loan. Based on what you told me before, I assume you know who she is." I did, because Noah had told me about her once. Briefly. In that dismissive way people talk about old mistakes. His ex-girlfriend. The one he'd dated way too long. The one he claimed he hadn't spoken to in 5 years because she was, in his words, toxic and selfish and emotionally unstable. They owned a condo together. "It appears," Karis said, tone almost clinical, "that your fiancé's mystery debt is in fact his half of the down payment on a real estate investment he co-owns with another woman. The loan for that down payment comes due shortly after your wedding. Given the timing, and your recent inheritance, it is reasonable to infer he was planning for your funds to satisfy that obligation." The room went fuzzy around the edges. His voice became a low hum. This wasn't a drunk text, not a one-night mistake, not some stupid purchase he'd hidden because of shame. This was a plan, a structure, a 7-month pipeline from private lender to condo with his ex to my grandfather's money. He'd looked me in the eye, he'd cried, he'd asked me to save us. He'd never once used the word "we" when it came to the condo, though. My name wasn't anywhere on that title. I pressed my fingertips into the edge of the desk to stop them from shaking. "So," I managed, "he takes a hard money loan, buys a condo with his ex, sets the balloon payment right after our wedding, finds out about my inheritance, and suddenly it's a sign from the universe that we should pay off his shame together." Karis didn't nod, but he didn't have to. "My role," he said, "is to present facts. But yes, the pattern is suggestive." Suggestive, that was one word for it. I paid his fee, $8,500, that I didn't even flinch at, not with what it had just protected me from, and walked out of that office a different person than the one who had walked in. By the time I pulled into my building's parking lot, my hands had stopped shaking. Everything inside me felt empty, like someone had gone through my chest with a sponge and wiped out all the color. Noah's car was in its usual spot. The smell of garlic and tomato hit me as soon as I opened the door. He was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of sauce, music playing softly from the speaker. The domesticity of it made my skin crawl. "Hey, babe," he said, glancing over his shoulder with a grin. "You're late. Did your accountant guy get what he needed?" I didn't answer. I set my bag down, walked to the coffee table, and placed the file on it with more care than it deserved. "Noah," I said quietly, "come here." He frowned, wiping his hands on a dish towel as he walked over. When he saw the paperwork, his face went a shade lighter. "What's that?" he asked, though we both knew. I opened the folder and flipped to the title search. I tapped my nail on the page. "Who," I asked, "is Jasmine?" The effect was immediate. The smile didn't just fade, it shattered. I watched the color drain from his face, his pupils dilate. For one suspended second, he looked like a kid caught with his hand in the register. "I can explain," he blurted. "It's not, Claire, it's not what it looks like." "Really?" I tilted my head. "Because it looks like you own a $600,000 condo with your ex-girlfriend." He reached for the papers. I pulled them back. "And it looks like your mystery debt that you were so ashamed of telling me about is actually a hard money loan you were planning to have my dead grandfather's money pay off, right after we got married. Did I miss anything?" He swallowed, eyes darting across my face like he was searching for the old version of me, the one who would bend her boundaries to keep the peace. "It's an investment," he said finally, voice sharpening. "It's for us, for our future." I laughed. It came out wrong, too sharp, too loud. Our future? Funny. I didn't see my name anywhere on that title. Just yours and Jasmine's. He threw his hands up. "Because I knew you'd react like this. Claire, you are so controlling about money. Jasmine got us in early. That condo is already worth more than we paid. It's an asset. I was bringing an asset into this marriage, and now you're punishing me for it." "You were bringing a lie and a loan," I snapped. "You tried to steal $120,000 from me." "It's not stealing if it's for us," he shot back, eyes flashing. "God, you're so paranoid. This is what I have to deal with. I was going to add you to the title later, after everything was settled, after the loan was paid." "With my inheritance," I said. "With our inheritance," he corrected reflexively, and there it was, his real truth. Something inside me went very still. "Get out," I said. He stared at me. "What?" "Pack a bag," I said. "You're leaving. The wedding is off. I'm not marrying someone who lies to my face and tries to turn my grandfather's death into a funding opportunity." His mouth opened and closed. You can't be serious. This is our home." "This is my condo," I said, each word precise. "My name is on the mortgage. You moved into my life, remember? And now you're moving out." Panic flared across his features. "You can't just do this. We have deposits. My suit, the venue, my mother has told everyone. Claire, don't be dramatic. We can fix this." "Not we," I said. You. You can live with the consequences of your choices. You have 1 hour to pack a bag. After that, I'm changing the locks." Now the mask was gone completely. He started shouting, calling me cold, ungrateful, insane for throwing away everything over a misunderstanding. He knocked a glass off the table by accident. It shattered, and he screamed that I was the one ruining everything. I stood there, hands by my sides, and watched the version of him I'd loved burn away in real time. In the end, he did what people like him always do when backed into a corner. He grabbed what he could and left. Clothes, his gaming console, his laptop. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. For a few minutes, the silence afterward was so absolute I could hear my own pulse. Then the tears came, not the pretty cinematic kind, but ugly, heaving sobs that made my ribs hurt. I cried for my grandfather, for the girl who believed every "we're a team" speech, for the life I thought I was building. When I could finally breathe again, I picked up the phone and called a hotel downtown and booked a room for a week. I couldn't stay in that condo, not yet. The walls felt saturated with lies. I grabbed a suitcase, packed some clothes, and my laptop and a folder of important documents, and left. On my way out, I slid the deadbolt and rested my forehead against the door for a second. "This is not your home," I whispered to the ghost of Noah still hanging in the air. "Not anymore." A week later, I'd moved through shock to something that felt like numb survival. I was sitting on the hotel bed, staring at the bland art on the wall, when my phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from an unknown number, 1 text. "This isn't over." It was from Noah. I looked at the words for a long time, feeling that cold thread in my stomach tighten again. I had no idea how right he was. It had been a week since I told Noah to leave. 7 days of silence that felt like the aftermath of a storm. Everything still, but broken in places you couldn't see. I went back to the condo once, just to grab my mail and check the locks. I thought maybe I'd feel relief walking into a space that was finally mine again. Instead, I felt a vibration before I heard it, someone pounding on the door. When I opened it, Barbara, Noah's mother, was standing there. She was dressed like she was heading to a country club. Pearls, beige cardigan, the kind of calm expression that only ever comes before an explosion. "Claire Dawson," she said sharply, "we need to talk." I didn't invite her in. About what? "You know what?" she snapped. "You've humiliated my son. You canceled a 300-person wedding over email, for God's sake. Do you realize what you've done to our family?" I folded my arms. I sent that email because it was the fastest way to stop everyone from sending gifts and making travel plans. The truth was in it. Your son was in a financial and personal partnership with his ex-girlfriend. I'm not marrying someone who lies to me. Barbara's mouth pinched. It was an investment, not an affair. You're blowing this out of proportion. My son was building your future, and now you've destroyed his. His investment was funded by a loan he planned to pay with my inheritance, I said. That's not a future, Barbara. That's fraud. Her eyes flashed. You promised him you'd pay that loan. You owe him that money now. He's in ruins because of you. Something inside me cracked, but not in the way she probably hoped. I owe him nothing, I said quietly. And if you ever come to my door again, I'll call security. I closed the door on her, feeling her rage like static on my skin. That night, I blocked every number tied to Noah or his family. For the first time in days, I slept a full 6 hours. But the peace didn't last. 2 mornings later, my phone buzzed again. A message request on social media from a name I didn't recognize at first. Jasmine Cole, the ex. Hi, Claire. I know you probably hate me, but I just wanted to say Noah's a wreck. You really did a number on him. He was counting on that money, you know. You shouldn't have promised him if you were just going to back out. It's cruel. My hands trembled as I read it. I stared at the little gray typing bubble that appeared again. It was just a business deal. You're being vindictive. Be decent and send him the $120K. You know he deserves at least that. I typed back one sentence. Tell your business partner he should have chosen a less stupid crime. Then I blocked her. That afternoon, a courier knocked at my hotel door. I signed for a thick envelope without thinking much, until I saw the law firm's letterhead. My stomach dropped. Inside was a lawsuit, filed by Noah Blake. Claim, breach of promise and fraudulent inducement. The letter accused me of verbally promising to pay off Noah's $120,000 pre-existing private debt as a condition of our upcoming marriage, that by breaking off the engagement, I'd caused him catastrophic financial and emotional harm. They were demanding $150,000, the original loan plus $30,000 for wedding-related damages. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. My heart slammed against my ribs, a sick rhythm of disbelief and fury. I was the one who'd been lied to, manipulated, and used, and now he was trying to paint me as the villain? That night, I sat in bed with my laptop open, searching for attorneys. Every click felt like trying to hold on to reality. The next morning, I was in the office of Ms. Alvarez, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. Her reputation for turning financial manipulation cases inside out was the reason I'd chosen her. She read the letter once, then again, slower. Then she smiled, coldly, like a surgeon deciding exactly where to cut. This, she said finally, is spectacular. I blinked. He's suing me. And admitting to fraud in the process, Tanya, she said. You couldn't pay for better evidence. Breach of promise isn't a viable claim in this state, especially not tied to marriage. And fraudulent inducement? They're accusing you of deceit while simultaneously confirming that he expected your inheritance to pay his loan. It's a gift, Claire. A gift? She nodded. We're not going to defend. We're going to attack. Her voice carried this kind of calm that comes from knowing the rules better than anyone else. We'll respond with a counterclaim, she said. We'll make it clear who the real fraudster is. I sat there, gripping the edge of the chair, half terrified, half electrified. Ms. Alvarez drafted the response herself. I'll never forget watching her type, methodical, precise, deadly. The first line read, Defendant Claire Dawson rejects all claims as frivolous and malicious. The engagement was terminated for cause, the cause being a deliberate conspiracy to commit financial fraud. Then came the evidence. She attached the forensic report from Mr. Karras, the loan agreement, the condo title search, the text messages, every piece of proof that showed how Noah had planned to use my inheritance to bail himself and his ex out of a debt timed conveniently after the wedding. The next section hit like a gavel. All wedding-related deposits totaling $42,350 were paid solely from Ms. Dawson's personal accounts. As Mr. Blake's fraudulent actions were the sole cause of cancellation, he is liable for 100% of these lost funds. Then the finishing strike. Counterclaim for $42,350, wedding deposits, plus $8,500, forensic accountant fee, equals $50,850. Offer to drop all civil fraud claims if Mr. Blake withdraws his lawsuit and signs a full release of claims within 48 hours. 48 hours, Ms. Alvarez repeated, smiling. After that, we file. She handed me the printed copy. I read it twice, each line sharpening something inside me that had been dull for weeks. I signed it. The letter went out that same afternoon. Then, for 2 days, nothing. No calls, no messages. Until Ms. Alvarez called me on the third morning, sounding almost amused. Well, she said, we got our answer. What happened? His lawyer dropped him. Apparently, when they reviewed the evidence, especially the forensic report, they realized your ex had lied to them about almost everything. They're refusing to represent him further. I let out a shaky breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. For the first time since this began, I felt the smallest flicker of relief. But as I'd learned soon enough, the universe wasn't done with Noah Blake. Because the balloon payment on that hard money loan, the one he'd so confidently planned for me to cover, was about to come due. And hard money lenders aren't nearly as forgiving as ex-fiancés. The email from Ms. Alvarez came on a gray Monday morning. Subject: Update, foreclosure proceedings. I clicked it open with the same numb dread people reserve for medical results. Inside was a short note. The lender has initiated foreclosure on the condo jointly owned by Mr. Blake and Ms. Cole. Non-payment of the $120,000 principal plus accrued interest and penalties. Auction scheduled within 2 weeks. I stared at the words until they blurred. 2 weeks. The condo, the one Noah built with my grandfather's ghost money, was about to vanish. And somehow, even after everything, I didn't feel triumphant, just hollow. That lasted until my phone rang. Private number. I almost ignored it, but instinct made me answer. Hello? Silence. Then a shaky breath I knew too well. Claire, it's me. Noah's voice, hoarse, frantic. I hung up. He called again. I blocked the number. 30 seconds later, my hotel phone rang. This time, it was Barbara's voice first. Claire, you need to talk to him, she hissed. He's in trouble. Then Noah grabbed the line. Please, don't hang up. I just need 5 minutes. I didn't speak, but I didn't hang up either. They're taking the condo, he blurted out. The lender. Those people. They're not normal banks. They sent someone to my mother's house. They said they'll sue. They'll ruin my credit, everything. Claire, please, you have to help me. This is your fault. My fault. I actually laughed, quiet and sharp. My fault? You promised you'd pay it, he shouted. You said we were a team. You can't just back out and leave me to drown. Please, I'll drop the lawsuit, I swear. Just give me the $120,000. We'll pay it off. I'll make it right. I cut him off. Noah, you already owe me $150. That's court record official. You might want to focus on that before begging for more. You're heartless, he snapped. You're really going to let them destroy me? Funny, I said. I was asking myself that same question about 7 months ago, when you took a loan in your name and Jasmine's. He inhaled sharply. You don't understand. She bailed. She's saying this was my idea. I'm the one on the hook. That sounds like a Jasmine problem, I said. Or maybe a Noah problem. Either way, it's not mine. Claire, please. His voice broke. I'm begging you. I exhaled slowly. Then here's my answer. Talk to your lawyer. Oh, wait, you don't have one. Goodbye, Noah. I hung up, blocked Barbara's number next. And that was it. The condo was auctioned off 2 days later. I followed the sale online, the way you'd follow a distant news story about a natural disaster. Detached, fascinated, slightly horrified. The winning bid barely covered the principal and penalties. Noah and Jasmine's $120,000 investment evaporated like fog on a mirror. According to the documents Alvarez later forwarded, both their credit scores tanked. The lender filed for deficiency judgment. Jasmine skipped town within a week. Noah stayed, mostly because he had nowhere else to go. A mutual friend texted me that he'd moved back in with Barbara, that he was telling everyone I'd bankrupted him over a misunderstanding. And maybe that's how he'll remember it. maybe that lie will help him sleep. Because the truth is uglier. He didn't lose because I fought back. He lost because he gambled with someone else's grief and bet on me being too kind to call his bluff. Ms. Alvarez handled the last of the paperwork. Noah never responded to our counterclaim, so the court issued a default judgment in my favor, $50,850 all. He now legally owes me that amount. He won't ever pay it. I know that. The next month, word got back to me through that same friend. Noah had filed for bankruptcy. The judgment would be wiped clean. Legally, I'd won. Financially, I'd lost. Emotionally, I wasn't sure what to call it. I spent nights staring out the hotel window, watching the city lights flicker like dying circuits. $500,000 still sat in my account, untouched, growing quietly under Mark's careful management. I was safe, but safety doesn't feel like victory. It just feels like surviving the fire with the smell of smoke still stuck to your hair. I went back to my condo after 6 weeks. The place was spotless, but it didn't feel like home, not yet. There was a small box of Noah's things I'd never touched. Old mugs, a hoodie, some chargers. I left it in the hallway, then texted Barbara's number one last time. Box of Noah's stuff outside my door. Pick up by Friday. After that, it's trash. She never replied, but the box was gone by morning. One evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine and reread the forensic report. Every page of it, the loan terms, the escrow transfer, the signatures, felt like a monument to what I refused to ignore again. People think stories like this end with revenge, or freedom, or a new start. They don't. They end with a slow rebuilding, with passwords changed, bank accounts sealed, and quiet gratitude for lawyers who don't flinch. They end with knowing you'll never hand over your trust, or your money, without a paper trail again. When people ask about the breakup, I just say, he tried to make me pay for his past. That's usually enough. And sometimes, late at night, when the city hums through my windows, I think about how easy it would have been to say yes, to write a check, to call it love, to let it destroy me. Instead, I remember something my grandfather used to say whenever he balanced his checkbook. Math doesn't lie. People do. He was right. Noah played a vicious, stupid game. And in the end, the math caught up with him.